We're James and Shelley Wren, and we are here on a podcast with Corey. He's from Canada, and he's going to share his journey so far in real estate from the beginnings. He's got some great insights from how it is in Canada as compared to the United States. So,
Mr. Corey Baker.
Mr. Corey Baker.
Hi, thanks for having me. So just to give everybody a little bit of overview, I'm 50. I'm a father of four, recently new grandpa. I just started getting into real estate in the US the last 4 months. I own two construction companies, and to give you a little overview why I've come down to the States to do real estate. The real estate industry in Canada has really changed. The prices have gone up so crazy that it's priced people out. A lot of people who are, in their early 20s and 30s can't afford the down payment to even buy a home. So let alone being an investor. So that's why you're seeing an exodus of people coming down to the United States to start investing, since your guys' rules are
Right.
way easier for people to get in. So for me, the first house I ever bought was when we were 20. So me and my wife met when we were 20. And after a few months, we found out that we were having our first child. And so I was working on a construction site here, and my vehicle was in the shop for servicing. And my wife asked me, she came to get me, and I told her to park. And she asked me why. And I said, well, we're going to the showroom. And she says, why, Corey? Like, we're 20. And I said, well, what's the worst they're going to say? No. And so sure enough, good thing it worked out that we got approved. I had good credit. And back then, the rules were a lot less strict. And so we were able to buy the house with 5,000 down. And
Wow.
yeah, so 5,000 down. We bought a hundred and
Is this
sixty
a brand
thousand
new
dollar
house?
condo, brand new condo.
Wow.
Yeah, and it was on the ocean, so ocean view. And so we
Wow.
owned that place for 4 years. And why I'm bringing that up is a few things. For one, um, that dream isn't alive anymore in Canada. And two is that what I know about real estate now, after 4 years, when we wanted to expand our family, if I would have known what I know now, we would have kept that condo, because that condo is worth like 6 times more. At one time, it was like almost 8 times more than what it was when we bought it. Right. And so if we would have known what we know now, we could have kept that as a rental. Right. And just kept it making us money.
Right.
Um, and with what I've learned from, the sub two group that we're all a part of, it has really, really opened my eyes to um, increasing the generational, wealth, right? Something that
Right.
to take care of my family. Um, I gave a bit of background that I own two construction companies, and I regularly would work, 16-hour days, 7 days a week. And what I know now is that if I would have put that same effort into real estate, I would have been so much farther ahead.
We
And
all will.
yeah,
Uh,
so 2 years ago, I went to a real estate conference in Toronto, and it's called the Multifamily Conference. And it's put on by a guy named Seth Ferguson. And I went there, and everybody was saying invest in the States. And what I didn't like about that conference is there was all these so-called mentors over there, and they were wanting exorbitant amount of money for you to
Right.
join their program. And so I joined one guy's program, and it was a short one, so it was like $1,000 I paid, and that was the catch. That's how they get you. And so the after the 1,000 was up, which was like a 1 month thing, they said, hey, if you want to go to the next level, it's 10,000, and that 10,000 is only for 6 months.
Yeah,
And I'm
we've
like,
gone through
whoa.
that.
Yeah.
We
Yeah,
did a thing where I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
no problem.
We did the Ron LeGrand quick start. It was like a 4-day seminar thing in Tampa, Florida.
Training. Yeah.
It was a training, and so what happened was is we went down there, same like you. We
Yeah,
paid a little bit of money, and then once you get down there, they have all these mentors,
yeah,
and they're like,
They all
oh,
have their own programs
they all have their own
yeah,
little programs, and then we paid what, $10,000 for this mentor for
for
six,
mentorship
yeah,
for
for
6 months.
mentorship for 6 months, and we're still paying on it. We got nothing out of it.
It was not anything that helped us move forward to where we wanted to be.
yeah.
And just a few months into it, we realized that, and then we ended up going through it, and then I think we joined Pace's community before we finished that
Yeah,
mentorship.
because I said, yeah, I think we did because I
The
said,
Gator, anyway.
yeah, because I said, I looked on YouTube for real estate, people, and his video popped up. And I told Jim, I said, you've got to check this guy out because this guy is amazing. And I think he is our answer. And
Yeah.
we've been,
Yeah,
head head first ever since.
yeah,
And
I'm
and
sorry.
the thing is that the difference between him and those other guys, it to me, he I get the feeling he actually cares. He actually
yeah.
cares that we actually do succeed or get something,
I
right?
am 100%.
Have you met him in person yet?
No, and that's what I want to do at the squad
Yeah,
up thing.
we have met him in person
It's very,
at a local thing that he was at here,
Yeah,
and he's the same person that you see on the videos.
he stares into your
yeah,
soul.
yeah.
I'm sitting there, I'm like, and all of a sudden he looks at me square in the eyes, and my heart just went, and I was
Yeah.
like,
And
okay.
when I went to that conference out there, um, that was I've told you guys, off the line here, before about my business struggles. That was within a few months of when I had that contract where they refused to pay me 189,000. And
Yeah,
so when I went to that conference, I was desperate. I needed to try to find, a way to get out of that. And when I was being offered by all of those mentors, right? They had all the booths set up and they're walking around and, and it's basically, it's like they're, vultures, going around the bodies and everything,
yeah,
right? And so when that was happening, I was being very, I didn't even have that much money to even go to the event, right? And
yeah,
so, they were, they had the discount where you could get the hotel and everything, and it was right near the event. Well, I couldn't afford the price of that hotel. It was like 500 and something bucks a night. And so I ended up getting an Airbnb, which was way less. And
yeah,
so when I was walking around and listening to all of these people trying to sell me to join their mentorship, right? In a way, I think it was good that I went there because at that time, because of my money situation, because if I had the money, I might have joined one of them, right?
yeah,
Like I might have went and spent that money into their mentorship and not gotten anything, right?
It was probably fate that you didn't.
Yeah, exactly. That I didn't have the money. And
right.
so, after there was another one, I went to a meet and greet and they wanted 30,000. And I'm like, holy
Wow.
crap. And it's just like, for one, I couldn't do it. And for one, I thought that was nuts. And three, if I spent that money, my wife would have killed me, right? If I did that.
Right.
So
You'd be
I'm
sleeping in the
glad that I
dark.
didn't do it. And the last night of that conference, they had like a meet and greet, like a party, right? And they rented out this nightclub and we
Yeah,
could go there. And through mingling with a lot of the people, I was hearing bad stories about these mentors,
Yeah.
and one from people that had already joined that weren't getting what they were promised out of it. And so I was like, wow, this is like a good thing that I didn't get into this, right?
Yeah.
And so another one, what they were doing was really, the main thing of that conference was really pushing syndication, right? Doing
Yeah.
syndicated real estate. And part of me, that wasn't what I want. I wanted to own it. I didn't want to own
Right.
some small management fee or small piece, right? And so at that time, when that my construction companies were struggling, so like of the now 13 years that I've had the company, 7 of those years were good, 5 of them are bad. But those 5 years that were bad, if anybody knows construction, you're constantly digging yourself out of the hole, right? Because here in Canada, we bill at the end of the month. So you work a month and then you bill and then you get paid the following month. And
Yeah.
all of that cash flow, like out of anything, cash flow is king in construction. So if you have something stopping that cash flow at any time, now you're like you're basically so in the hole if you don't have any savings, right? And so um I was in the process of digging the company out of that hole. So to spend that money on a mentorship. But what opened my eyes was there was a young guy, and I still follow him online, and he owns a mortgage brokerage. And he talks about how he got into real estate. And he started in real estate like 3 years after me. And he had 20 million in his portfolio. And I'm like, what the hell am I doing? Right.
Right.
So it was that moment when I heard him speak that I decided, I'm like, okay, I got to do that. And I started thinking back about when me and my wife bought and sold our houses. So we had bought and sold and renovated 3 homes here, right? So we had our family. As our family was growing, we went, to a bigger house. So that first house that I told you about, we didn't do anything with that. And this was before the big real estate boom really took off in Canada. And so we sold it after 4 years, and we made like 65,000. And we thought that was awesome. And then we went and bought an older home from the 60s, close to a good neighborhood and a good elementary school, which was right across the street. And we owned that house for 4 years, and I renovated it myself. I did a lot of the work myself because when I was younger, I did drywall and stuff. And when I first was with my wife, I was working for an electrical company, hadn't decided if I was going to do that as a career. And then I ended up getting a job in the office at a container port up here. And so what happened is I would come home from working lots of hours and I would do the renovation ourselves. So after 4 years, when we sold that, we made 110,000.
Yeah.
And then we bought a brand new 3-level townhome. And we owned that for 18 months. And the only renovation that we did is the garage was a tandem, which is, you park back to back.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so what we did is we closed off half of that and added a room, right? Like a games room, right? So we added that and we did hardwood floor and everything in it. And after 18 months, we sold that and we made over 130,000. And then we built our forever home that we have now. And so after that guy, the mortgage broker, talked about his success in real estate, I was like, well, wow, this guy's showing how much he did and his effort. And he started after me. And then the most money we ever made as a family was when I had the real estate. I'm like, okay, I'm going to do that. And so, I did a year and a half with the business and everything. And then that's when I had been following Pace for about 3 years. And I was following another guy named Richard Garcia. And I was trying to pick which one. And so I was actually asking questions. I was sending Instagram messages. And
To them personally?
oh yeah. And
Okay.
they were responding. And what made me decide, so I had an interview with both of them, went and did a phone call with both of their teams. And I could tell I was going to get more out of Pace's group.
Right.
And, you know, and so I was like, okay, I'm coming. And the amount of people, you know, you guys being American, everybody says, oh, Canadians are nicer and all of that and everything. Uh, my experience meeting Americans within the group has been everybody's very nice and very willing to help. And
Right.
that's why I'm happy to be in the group.
I think the biggest thing is that um, Pace does a lot of, or at least his team weeds out a lot of the bad apples that get in there,
Yeah.
and they leave. They end up going doing whatever else, but they end up getting out of the community. And he keeps everybody in there that's trying, being consistent, coming, learning. It, everybody that we've met in this community has been just as well. They're awesome. They're very helpful. Everybody's grateful because of being in here. Um, can't say anything more about it.
I think the biggest thing is that within this group, there's such a wide array, right? We have agents, we have gators, what we
Yeah,
call private money lenders. We have
TCs.
contractors like myself. And there's also some very young people in here, right? You see, like, there's
Yeah,
18-year-olds and stuff, and they're doing deals and everything, and the ones who are young, their fathers or mothers had past real estate experience, so they're
well,
getting help that way, but they're still doing deals, right?
they're also not restricted by the fears of what life has taught us, the older generation,
Yeah,
We're
yeah,
very much more protective than they are because they don't understand the repercussions if you do things wrong, which we do.
yeah.
And
And
they
and
they
and you don't.
tend to do
And
better.
my big thing is, I would you not agree, James?
Yeah.
Don't be afraid about that failure.
Yeah.
You know what I
That
mean?
that is what you have to do. You have to do it and not worry about what's going to happen because it's not really going to be that bad if you fail. I mean, you just have
Yeah,
to pick yourself up and move on to the next deal or
Yeah.
whatever.
We're bad at overthinking and it's like
Yeah.
what if this doesn't happen or what if that but I think we're getting past that now. And
yeah,
I think that joining, a group of people that have like-minded mentalities that makes this so much better because that way we can all support each other and start from scratch.
yeah. And my big takeaway that I would want anybody viewing this would be
Yeah.
is there's people that have probably been in worse experiences than I have, but basically, I
There's
was
always
born
somebody.
right. I was born into northern Canada in a small area, very very small town, and the cabin that I was born in was no bigger than two pickup trucks, and I'm not exaggerating. We had no running water. We had to dig through 6 feet of snow to go to an outhouse to go to the bathroom. Um, Basically, my bedroom as a young kid was what you would consider a small walk-in closet. And, we would have to go to a mountain spring to get running water, even in the wintertime. And we would fill up 5-gallon pails, right?
It's
And
ironic. I had that same situation. We had an outhouse. I lived in Arkansas as a
yeah,
teenager, and we had Spring River. That's where we got our water and everything from. And
yeah,
then we had an outhouse that I had to go to with a freaking lantern because we didn't have electricity at the time.
yeah,
And I kind of came through the same types of things that you're talking about, and I don't think I've really
yeah,
shared a lot of that because it's just a part of the life that you learn from and move on.
Yeah. And, for me, I was always striving, want more and more and more because I grew up with nothing, right?
Right. Yes, you do.
Like
You do.
I remember as a teenager, I'll never forget this. We're visiting my grandma, and my grandma worked very, very hard. And there was pictures of her when my oldest aunt is just a baby. And my grandma has her on a pack board and strapped to her, right? So a native pack board. So it's a straight board and it's like a backpack. And so she had her on there, and my aunt's on there. And here my grandma is running a horse team, dragging out the fallen logs, right? Because my grandpa had a logging operation. And so my grandma worked in that, right?
Right.
And then years later, my grandma became a homemaker. So what she would do is she would go around the community and she would help all of the seniors. That was her job. So she would go and make sure they went to all of their appointments, clean their house, make meals for them so that they could just go in the fridge and grab them and make sure they took all their medications and everything, right? And so she did that. And I just remember that when I was 14, my grandma wanted to take us to go get, a gift. And so she took me and my brother, and we went into this store. And in my mind, I'm thinking all these shoes are too expensive, because where we used to get our clothes was either from a thrift store, Goodwill, or whatever, or Kmart. And I remember like the most expensive shoes we had growing up were like $30. The skates we had, in the town that we lived in, there was always this used skate bin, right? And we would always get our stuff from that. Our couches didn't have legs. We used cans of
Right.
canned food, as the legs. And so when we went into the store, I'm looking at all these shoes, and they were like 100, 130, 140. I'm like, what the heck? Like, we can't afford this. And my grandma bought these shoes for us, these runners, these high tops. And I kept saying, Granny, are you sure? Are you sure? Yes, yes. You're my grandkids. I'm going to buy this for you. And that was the first time I ever, not that my mom didn't provide. My mom always worked hard, and we always, had
Did for what
food.
she could.
Yeah, right. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Right. And so when that happened, like my mom moved away because my father was very abusive. My mom broke up with him when I was 4. And so we moved away down south to the capital of our province, British Columbia, to Victoria. And because she wanted us to have a better life. And so that house and property, the cabin that we had, my mom got that in the divorce, but she couldn't afford to do anything with it. And so she ended up selling it, in the 1990s for not very much. And, for a long time, we always lived in low-income housing, right? Being First Nations, your version of Native Americans. So they had special low-income housing for us. And so we moved around a lot because as my mom's career and everything was getting better, we were moving up, right? Getting a better place.
Yeah.
And so she didn't actually own a house until I was like 18. It was the first time she bought another house.
Have you ever
And,
looked back? Oh, I'm sorry. But have
no,
you
go
ever
ahead.
looked back at that house and seen how much it's worth today?
You mean the house that she bought?
The one that that you guys had when you were young.
The cabin.
The cabin.
No, but I know the values in that town, our hometown, have gone up so much. So it would probably have, for sure quadruple.
Because
Right?
I've looked at my childhood home and realized it is not very. I think the values have went down since we lived there.
Oh, really? So
Yeah.
see, the area where we came from, because of the increase in industrial development, right?
Okay.
So they were making, not far from there, about an hour from there, was sorry, 2 hours from there is a liquid natural gas terminal that they were putting in. And
Yeah.
so because of that, all the housing prices have gone up.
Yeah.
And that cabin, the people that bought it ended up actually adding on to it. So that the
Yeah.
house for that cabin's still there, and then they added on to it, and it's a 10 acres. Now that you say that, I'm going to look that
Yeah.
up and see.
Yeah,
Right?
because my childhood home was in Flint, Michigan. That's
Yeah,
where I was actually born. And my parents worked for General Motors and so forth, but it's not as big of a general or auto industry in Michigan as it was at that time,
yeah,
because it's went more nationwide now than it is just concentrated in that one area. So because of that, and the values have just went down because the industry's not there, that the demand in housing is not there that it once was at that
yeah,
time.
yeah, yeah. And you know, the values of that house and up there in the area have only started going up, I would say, like the last 8 years because of that push for development, right?
Right.
And so there was a big like land grab because everybody was just buying it, thinking that, you know, oh, okay, like all these workers are going to come, right?
Right.
And they haven't developed as much as they wanted, right? So they had planned like 10 liquid natural gas terminals up here. And that was well over a decade ago that they had planned this. And
Right.
this year, 2025, only one of them is coming online, actually going into service. And
Right.
and part of the reason for that is because of all the environmental rules, right? But on the
That's
flip
part of
side,
the pipeline thing, isn't it? That
yeah.
was supposed to be coming to here, and it got canceled by our last presidential
Well,
administration.
no, that's a different one, but it is a part of that, the environmental stuff. All the
Yeah, same
environmentalists here
thing.
were cheering when that happened, when
Yeah,
Biden canceled that, right?
yeah.
And and that's why, like in Alberta, where the majority of our oil is, that's why they're very excited with Trump coming back because they
The
see that their industry will get jump started again.
yeah, the ironic part about that is, if you put the pipeline in there, you're just pushing oil and stuff inside of a secure pipeline. But now then they have to go put it all on trucks and drive it all the way across instead of putting it in a pipeline. So it's going to ruin the environment a lot worse than building the pipeline, which is
Well,
kind of
up
ironic.
here they do it a lot. They do it majority by rail.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. The in Quebec we had a big accident. There was a train crash and it was a massive explosion.
Right.
And it was
That
all
too.
oil tankers, right?
Right.
And so that's the big thing. So like, you know, the guy Pierre Polyev who's going to get into power in the next election, that's what he's pushing. Is he's like, we got to just, you know, because we have the third
Yep.
largest oil reserves in the whole world,
Yeah.
but you got to push to develop them, right?
Yep.
You
But
know,
we
and
digress.
so yeah, but you know, so the thing is that about the real estate is your
I have a
guys' rules are more conducive to people getting into the market, not just for themselves, but as investors.
right. I have a question for you. I mean, you see us, we work together as a team doing this. Is your wife involved in this at all?
No, so my wife, she's very content with what she does, and so she works for the band office of her Indian Reserve.
Oh,
And
okay.
so she plans all of their events and everything. But she's very good with decorating. So
Right.
when we built our house, she chose everything. We didn't hire an interior decorator. And
Right.
so with what I want to do with fix and flips, I want to get her to choose the designs.
Okay.
And in that way, I want to get her involved. Um, to be real, she thinks it's just too good to be true, the stuff that I'm telling her that I'm learning, right? Because it's
Right.
so foreign for us here in Canada, right?
It's a lot for anybody that doesn't see how it works. I
Yeah.
mean, it's hard to believe that this is possible, but it is. I mean, if you look around, who are all the millionaires around? They all own real estate. Most of them.
Yeah,
Most of them
yeah.
have created their wealth from real estate. And
Well,
then
I
there's
mean,
a few like
a good example
Elon.
is even if you just look at the McDonald's. I mean, McDonald's isn't about the hamburgers. The way they had their model, they own the land and they're leasing out the land to the franchisee. So they're
Yeah,
making all of that money from the lease fees and everything, and the food stuff. And so, I mean, that's why McDonald's is worth, all those building billions because of that, right?
yeah,
And um, if you look at all of the hedge funds, most of those hedge funds, they own so many, not just apartment buildings, but they own a lot
yeah.
of single family homes that they're renting out, right? Stuff that we're learning through PACE, right?
A
You
lot of
know,
all kinds of real estate. They have
yeah, yeah,
everything.
yeah. So like my big thing is that through my construction background, with the 22 years, and a lot of it is more heavy duty, like construction, like building hydro dams, oil and gas projects, mining, water reservoirs, big, massive tilt up warehouses,
Right.
condominium buildings, right? Doing the rebar is that, you know, my thing is that, and I've also me telling you that I've basically done 3 fix and flips here, that's where I want to kind of focus, right? And but learning about how to do a wrap, buy it at a low interest rate and then resell it, at a higher interest rate so that we're making, residual money every month off of that difference in the interest. Um, because if you look at guys like Grant Cardone, he says, "Oh, one and done," meaning that's got one door, don't do it. But
Right.
learning about through PACE how you can purchase in different ways, and there's
Right.
podcasts of PACE being on with Grant and Grant not knowing the way PACE does deals.
Yeah.
I'm really,
I've seen those.
yeah, so my focus is a wrap or wanting to do a lease option and then doing some fix and flips. That's kind of where I want to go just because that's my expertise, right?
Yeah.
And there's risk with that because you go in there and you make a budget of what you want to do and then you open up a wall and you see like freaking mold or whatever. Now all of a sudden the whole thing changes, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And the thing is that another thing that you guys in the United States have access to is a way more wide range of money. So for one, you guys have the population, right? Like your population is, 350 something million and we're just at
Right.
like 41, right?
Yeah.
So there's a lot more money in your country. The rules for lending are a lot less strict. And
Well, yeah, it depends on where you get it from.
yes,
But
but it,
you're talking mostly banks, right?
yes, yeah, yeah, yeah,
Not outside of the banks. Okay.
yeah. But even outside of the banks, like private money wise, there's more access to that down
Yeah.
there than there is here, right?
Yep.
And my big thing is that I get those fears too. We were talking about having the fear and
Yeah.
overanalyzing whatever, but
Yeah.
sometimes I dive in too fast, right?
Yeah.
That's my personality. Yeah, let's do it. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like I used to have a real bad fear of heights and water, right? And like this summer I actually took a Swift River Rapids swimming course and
Oh,
to help, because I've always been able to swim,
to
but I would
help.
have this kind of underlying fear, right? Because especially when you're in water and you can't really see down, right? For some reason in my mind, I would just have this fear. And so I
Yeah.
went to this course going through these rapids, right? And the reason why is as a kid, I used to have this nightmare all the time. And the nightmare is that I was in the olden days and I was First Nations kid, your version of Native American, and I'm dressed in, the buckskin and everything like our old clothes, and I'm being
Yeah.
chased by these cowboys, and they're coming after me, and they're yelling that they're wanting to kill me, and so I'm
Right.
running through, and the forest, and all these trees are coming at me, and I'm, as I'm going around them, and I come to a cliff, and there's only one way to get away from them is to jump in the river. And so I jump in the river, and the rapids and the boiling, the water turning and everything, and I come up and I'm like gasping for air and everything. And so I would always, when that would happen with the gasping for air, was when I would always wake up.
Yeah.
And so I always had this fear of the water, even though I went very far in swimming lessons. Almost, it was able, like, two um, courses behind becoming a lifeguard. I still had that fear. So I went and I took this river course. And while I'm taking this river swimming course, this one area, they call it a bowl. So where there's a big rock and the water
Right.
flows over, and then the water churns, right? Just
Right.
churns like that. And so you have to, when you come up out of that, you got to swim, right? You got to swim at a specific time when the water's lifting you up. That's when you swim, right? And I kept looking at that big bowl all day, that one day. And so I'm looking at it, looking at it, looking at it. And I finally told the instructor, because he had us in easier water. And I said, hey, I just want to ask, I want to go through that. And he goes, are you sure you're ready? And I said, yes. And so I went through it. And one of my family members, my cousin, was at the course with me after. And so after we went and talked, and when I went through that water, it was just like in my dream, right? From when I was young. And after I got out of that, I felt really good. Right. So I'm telling this story to just say, when you have fears, just go through it. You know what I mean? Like, just say, as they say that saying, fear, right? It's false evidence that appears real. You know what I mean?
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. And so you got to just go through it and go and do it. Right.
Yeah. You just gotta get out there, do it, and find out what happens.
You're
Yeah.
Indian too.
Yeah. Yeah, you may not realize it, but yeah, my dad was a full-blooded Blackfoot Indian, and then my mom was three-quarters Cherokee. I don't
Yeah.
look it now because I'm
What
so
the heck?
gray. You would never know it now because I'm so gray, but yeah. Uh,
So both my grandparents were full,
yeah.
right?
Oh, really?
Yeah. So my grandfathers on both sides weren't. And then my wife, her dad was full.
Okay.
And up here, I'm not sure about genealogy down south, but up here, long, long time ago, it's very hard for us to show our genealogy, because what they would do in the census records, they would say the last name, right? So they would say the last name of the person, and then they would
Mhm.
say savage father, savage daughter, savage wife, savage son, right? They wouldn't
Oh,
say
really?
the actual name. And so it's been very, very hard for people to prove their lineage, right?
Right.
And and the thing about that is that also there was a big push up until the 60s, because they were discriminated against so badly. No one, they're totally brown and look totally like a native. They're like, no, I'm not native. They would deny that they were, native, right? And so back in the day, we used to call ourselves natives. In our government, they call us Indians, right? So we have what we call the Indian Act that governs us. And so, anyways, only that, I would say, the last 20 something years or 30 years, we've been calling ourselves First Nations. And so what happens is that in the 60s, they started giving more funding for us, right? Where if you maintain a certain grade point average, you could go to university and it would be paid for, right? And so only then did people start saying, hey, I'm First Nations. And then they wanted to learn more about their culture. And then they would go to try to do, genealogy background search, and they weren't really finding out anything, right? So
Right.
with your parents, were they members of any tribes?
My dad was. My mom did. She didn't really do a lot. Um, I was a member of a lot of different things growing up, as far as different events and stuff. Not necessarily a tribe, but different events that were going on. I was able to go to school for free. Um,
For university.
well, no, just public schools, and I got free lunches, free everything was free for me.
Oh, I
I
see.
never had to pay anything to go to school.
And
As
when
far
you
as
say
going to
your dad
college,
Blackfeet, isn't that in Montana?
it was the Upper Plains up in that area, yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
And then I guess I had the option to go to college for free. I did not take it up on it because I had a kind of a different plan at the time. I planned
Yeah.
on being a musician, uh, and
You're
nothing
planning
else
on
really.
being a rocker.
Yeah, pretty much. And then I didn't really look at school as something I wanted to do.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
uh, I wish I made a lot of different changes and stuff, but yeah, this is where life took me. This is where I'm at today.
Well, your mom died when you were 16.
Yeah, my mom passed away when I was 16 years old, and my dad pretty much left at the same time. So I was on my own since I've been 16.
Oh, I
So
see. Yeah.
so
And, and
I didn't really get to know them a whole lot
yeah, you didn't have
as an adult.
you didn't have a chance
No,
to explore because you had to provide for yourself.
right. And then my dad actually passed away. I think I was 21, 22, something like that, when
Oh
he
yeah.
passed away. So which was right not far after my mom. So
Yeah.
um my adult life, I never really knew my parents. I just knew them as a child mostly.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's just I can't really ask them questions if we were in a tribe or anything. I don't know because, and as a kid, you don't really care. You just, where's my next toy and where's my food and
Yeah.
stuff
Yeah.
that doesn't really matter, you know?
Well,
You don't
on
have a,
my dad's side of the family, they're from the plains too. So one of our big tribes in Canada on the plains is called the Cree,
uh,
and that's where his family's from. But because of my dad and his alcoholism and the abuse, and I refuse to talk to him when he's drinking and everything, I haven't seen him very much. Like the
right,
last time I physically saw him was 2005. The last time I talked to him was 2009. And it just was a handful of times before that, right? But I'm close with a lot of my aunts and uncles on that side of the family.
oh,
So
okay,
I learn about my culture there, but the majority of my culture comes from my mom's side,
all
right?
right,
Yeah,
yeah,
because
I can see
I
that.
grew up around that, and I'm really close with a lot of the people,
Hmm.
my relatives. Yeah,
It's more your comfort area right there.
yeah, yeah. And our big thing is the hunting and the fishing and the salmon and stuff. So as kids, we grew up that every summer we came to help with the fishing and the smokehouse and getting the fish ready and canning and everything, and then
Yeah,
also doing berry picking to make the jams and stuff. And then in the fall, it was the hunting and everything, right? So I bring
right,
my sons up there every year, even though it's a long drive, like it's like a 16-hour drive. I still bring them up there every year for us to hunt so that they can know our home territory, right?
yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
It sounds like we share a lot in common. I didn't even realize. I mean,
yeah, yeah,
my parents did. We lived on a farm. We did all of our own canning and everything. I was constantly out there farming as a child, and that was part of the stuff I hated as a kid because you wanted to go play. You didn't want
yeah,
to be out hoeing a bunch of corn, but we had to.
yeah.
And then
Well,
hunting,
and
hunting
when you
with my
say that you don't want to be doing the work, yeah, yeah, I
right.
hear what you're saying.
Uh,
Because
but
you were forced to.
yeah, but I'm actually glad it gave me a strong work ethic now, but I hated it then,
Yeah.
but I understand why.
Well, my when I was young, we lived with my grandparents for a bit. Um, and the chores because they had the cattle and everything. You had to get up in the morning and you had to feed the cows and the other
Right.
animals, pigs, before you ate.
Yeah.
And one of my other cousins lived with my grandparents too. And when he was older than me, and I was put under his wing. And so I would go with him, and I'm like just a young 7-year-old, and I'm not helpful, and he's doing all the work and he never once complained. And then
Right.
same thing, we had to do the same thing at night for dinner, right? But what I would say is on my dad's side of the family, they were into farming and ranching too. And they would do a lot of hay. So they had the big hay bales and they would put them in a part of the field, right? A stock pen before they would truck them out. And
Uh-huh.
we would play tag on those bales of hay. And if
Yeah.
you fell down, your feet touched the ground, you were it, right? As long as you didn't get touched and you didn't fall down, then you were okay. Well, heck, that's some of my best memories, you know?
Of course.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
So,
I remember once when I was young, my brother and my dad, my brother's 6 years older than me, and he was into hunting, like bow hunting, gun hunting, all kinds of hunting and stuff. And they took me out hunting when I was probably 10 to 12 years old. And they left me out in the middle of this forest for about 2 or 3 days by myself, see if
they
I could
left you
survive.
by yourself?
But they were watching me, but I did not know that they were watching me,
Oh, I see.
you know, because they just took off and were gone. But as far as I knew, and they just wanted to see if I could survive out there.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it was like,
We're supposed to be talking about real estate.
yeah, we're supposed to be talking about
We
when they go left turn.
we made a huge left turn.
Yeah. Yeah. To get back to that, because time wise, I only have a little bit more time. But the big thing about the real estate is that um, I want people to realize as that since we've met, so an
Yeah.
example of that is there's really good
And we
people
met
out
in the
there
No One
that
Left
you can team
Behind.
up with, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of people out there that you can team up with, and ask people questions. Yeah, there's some swindlers out there too, but there's a lot of good people, right?
Yes, there's both.
And especially within Pace's community.
Yep.
And it's got real good access to not only the training resources, but also, people that were in your position well before us, right? So they've learned
Right.
from the mistakes that we're about to do or in the middle of or haven't done yet.
Yep.
And
Yep.
so, they're good. They're there to because the
Guide
big
you.
thing, yeah, they're there to guide you. They're not viewing you as a competitor. They want you to succeed, right?
Because
And
everyone succeeds.
yeah, exactly, right. Everyone succeeds. And I just think if anybody's wanting to get into the real estate, they should. They should just do whatever they can. And the overanalyzing thing, I get it. It can happen because you're so worried that if it doesn't work out. But the big thing is that it's not going to work out for sure if you don't try.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
I mean, if you don't try, nothing's going to happen. But if you
Yeah.
try, you don't know what's going to happen. It could be good, it could be bad. But either
Like
way, something's going to happen.
I could wallow in my views. Oh, I wish I would have did real estate instead of the construction companies. You can't do that. You got to just move forward, right? You
Yeah.
just got to go and learn from it, right?
Well,
You
just think
know,
of the opportunity we have now in front of us. It's an
yeah,
opportunity.
yeah. And I think for if people are watching this and they haven't gotten to real estate, I think that you'll see over the next couple months of how good the opportunities will be, right?
Yeah.
Especially with Trump coming into office tomorrow, right?
Yep.
And I think that is going to be a big benefit for anybody who's wanting to be new and starting out,
Hmm. I
right?
agree.
Like some of it, I mean, these values in the properties, I think, are going to go up just because people are going to have faith in the market and want to start getting in the market. And so, because of that demand, it's just going to drive prices up, right?
Yeah. Um, it's going to be one of those questionable years. You don't know how it's going to work because talking about demand, well, there's going to be a lot of demand leaving the country, and then there's going to be a lot of demand still here in the country. So you don't know where it's going to play out. We're going to have to find out as we go through 2025.
I think it'll be depending on the area, right? Like
I'd say,
certain
yeah, that's
areas,
that too.
right? So certain
Yeah,
areas, if it's a blue if it's a blue area, you're probably right, and
yeah,
it might go down. But if it's a red area, I think it'll go up. You know what I mean? But you
yeah.
might not see it because the way economy goes, you're not going to see the effects of it probably maybe truly until later in the year, right?
Oh, yeah, of course.
Right? You know, because the things that he's going to do and his cabinet or team or whatever you want to call it is going to do, we're not going to see the effects until say September, October, right?
No, yeah,
So we
Yeah,
better buy some deals.
that's what I
yeah.
think. Yes, yes.
Let's get ahead of the game and see what
Yeah,
happens.
let's get ahead of the game. Let's buy some big stuff.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Yes.
I know.
So if your viewers don't know, James Shelley and I and a couple others have formed a team that we're going to do deals together. And so that
Yes, we
that
have.
that's what I was talking about, teamwork and everything, and about everybody enjoying each other and everybody out to help each other, and that's what we're going to do together.
And I just want to throw out there that you have to have a team. It takes community to do this.
Yeah,
Um,
I'm
me and
super excited
me and
too.
Shelly have tried to do it on our own, and it's just we need
It doesn't work.
we need help. Everybody needs help, either buying, selling. I mean, there's all parts of this industry that we need to team up and do. You're
yeah,
not, and Pace has told us a million times you can't do this job by yourself or this by yourself because it takes networking. Who you know, who you've talked to, uh, what do they need? How can you help them, and how can they help you? And that's how this industry works.
yeah, yeah, for sure. Yeah, yeah. So, but I appreciate you guys bringing me on, but
Yeah.
I have to end it. I got
All
something else
right. No,
I'm
we
doing.
understand, and we thank you for being here.
Yeah, thank
And
you, Corey.
you will be
Sorry
on
for
our.
that left turn, Shelley.
No, that's okay.
We,
It
we
was our
Yeah,
bonding moment
yeah,
between
yeah,
you and
yeah,
Jim.
yeah.
yeah.
So yeah, no,
Just
and the
ironic.
thing
I didn't
is
know.
that as you guys will get to know Shelly and James, you'll understand that they're very down to earth and that they're very open. You know,
Yeah,
if when we talked about these other mentors and these other people, a lot of those people are very guarded and they're all just about there to get your money.
yeah,
And you know what I like about the two of you is you're just wanting to share your journey
yeah.
and you know if people can
Hear
learn
about other
something from
people's.
that, so be it, right?
Yeah, we want to hear everybody's
Yeah,
journey.
we like to learn from other people's journeys as well.
Yeah, see
Yeah,
what things that you've done that's been good for you, and what things that maybe didn't work for you, and we will learn on both sides of that coin right there. What's
yeah,
good and
yeah,
what's
for
bad.
sure.
Maybe we'll do another Zoom on that.
Right.
Yeah,
Because we took such a hard left.
yeah,
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 this is what we're doing for 2025 is we're trying to get a little bit bigger audience. People that want to watch us do interviews and maybe learn something themselves so they can take maybe a nugget from this video and move forward and do something good out there.
We also
yeah,
want to have some a Zoom if you want to participate, that's up to you, with some lenders so we can interview them and get some insights on what they need and what they're looking for. And
Okay.
That's what we're working on for next week's Zoom or
Yeah.
Okay. I'd be
podcast.
interested in that for sure.
yeah,
Yeah.
you could get on that. We'll send you a link for that because I know a lender. She's lending her own funds, and she's collaborating with other like-minded people that
She's
have the
building a
same.
network
She's
of
Yeah, she's
lenders.
building a network of lenders.
Okay, cool. Okay,
And
awesome.
somebody that we want to learn what she's doing and how we can help her and how we can
You can all do deals with her.
she can help us.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, no, that's awesome. So yeah, just
That's what
send
we're
me that.
working on for next week.
Yeah, so we'll do that. But I should go. And again, thank you so
All
much
right.
for having me on. And heck, you might inspire me to start doing my own.
All right.
Oh, why not?
That's just
Yeah.
talking, having a conversation. That's all we do.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. So, but yeah, so thank you very much and enjoy the rest of your day.
All right, same to you. Bye bye now.
Bye.
Okay, bye.